Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining the Tucson Mug user group meeting today. We've got a special one. We brought together an all-star cast of Marketo Engage Champions to talk to you about 2026 and what they think the hot trends, or maybe the not so hot trends, are going to be in the coming year. It looks like Chris even brought Elf, and so that's amazing. So we're pretty excited to have Will Ferrell even joining us in this Tucson mug. But that being said, we'll go ahead and dive in. So, as you might have noticed, I did start to record the session. So, just to call out that that's being recorded. If you'd like to opt out of the recording, now is a great time to do so. This is also meant to be a place and space that's safe for us to share ideas, share knowledge, and not feel like we're going to be pitched any sales or services. If you do get in touch with people outside of the user group, outside of this meeting, make sure it's with consent. And definitely, if you share a use case or if someone shares a use case here, please keep that within the user group unless you have explicit consent. And like I said, we're being recorded. If you don't want to be on the recording, no worries. You can pop off now, and I will be happy to send you the recording. Any questions you might have, feel free to direct those to my attention. You can easily find me on LinkedIn, or I believe you can email me through Bevy. And if you're not familiar with Bevy, that is the space where our user groups are all hosted for Adobe. You can find great ways to connect with Marketo user groups around the world. You don't have to necessarily live in the town to participate in the events, especially the virtual ones. So take a peek. There's lots of interesting content that comes out on the regular. I believe if you go through, you can join, sign up for our content, and you can look and see worldwide what you might be interested in receiving. And Karina, you're also a mug leader, right? So be sure to look for Karina's mug when you're out and about. But that being said, I'll let her introduce herself and plug that particular group in just a moment. If you're interested in community, which if you're here, I'd likely suspect that you are, Adobe Summit is just around the corner. I just registered yesterday, you guys. I'm so excited. If you've never been to an Adobe Summit before, it is pure magic. You will learn so much. You will make so many great connections, and it will fly by like a dream. So if you're able to join us in person, come on out to the Venetian. Save your space. The hotels do fill up quickly. I think that is one pro tip that I would share is that if you're looking to stay on site, those are the first things to
hmm
fill up, are the hotels on site. So if you have interest here, you can always drop questions in the chat and let us know. And really, you can ask us anything in the chat. I'll be keeping eyes there. It's a great way to interact if you have any topics you'd like to cover, not just necessarily the ones that we're going to talk about in our roundtable. We'll save time for Q&A at the end of our chat. So that being said, there are also free courses that are available if you're interested in continuing your skill building with formalized courses. There's a QR code there if you want to grab that off of the screen. And that being said, Adobe in exchange would love for you to tell Trust Radius or G2 your wonderful thoughts on how much you love Adobe Marketo. They will incent you with a thank you card and a gift card as a gesture of their appreciation. We've got the housekeeping out of the way, y'all. It is time for the good stuff. I'm so delighted to be joined by Maria, Karina, and Chris today. I would love to go on ahead and pass the mic on over to Maria to start us off, if she would be so kind as to give us a little introduction.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm glad to be here and with a great table with Chris and Karina. Thank you, Lauren. I always hate to say it because I feel like I age myself. I have over now, I think, 14 years experience in Marketo. So before it was acquired, and I say I learned it from scratch because I think that's the best way to learn it is actually diving deep, right? And learning it instead of somebody training you doing it. Yes, that's always nice in the documentation, but actually going in, so back in the day, I learned it. And so I'm a three-time Marketo champion, and I'm excited to be here and provide my insights with the rest of these wonderful people for 2026. I'll pass the ball over to Chris.
Thank you so much, Maria. Chris Willis. I am a five-time Marketo champion and have been kind of out on my own doing marketing operations, Marketo, CRM, consulting work for the last couple of years. And I think, Maria, I've been in Marketo almost as long as you have. We might have to compare when we started using it. I started on my own and then I worked with the then Marketo Professional Services on a project where they showed me a lot of best practices, a lot of which I still deploy today. I love Marketo for its scalability, the number of things that we can do within it in this very simple architecture. And I think as we talk about, what's hot in 2026, what we're seeing come from Adobe, as well as in the greater MarTech space. So I'm excited to be on this panel with y'all, and I will pass it over to Karina.
Hi, everyone. My name is Karina. I'm super excited to be joining you guys. I love to refer to myself as a traditional marketer because I started my roots in basic marketing, email, channel, advertisement, everything you can think of. And then I made my way into marketing operations because markups people didn't really exist back then. But I am a first-time Marketo champion. I also was a top three at the Experience Makers Award, actually with Lauren for 2024. Such a fun experience. And then in addition to that, I've also been nominated for Marketing Influencer Awards. I've taken two home. And I've also been in startup world. So my experience in organization really starts from preliminary early startups to these big, massive organizations working with organizations such as my current one of Bonterra, but having a cool big spectrum of the B2C world and B2B at the same time. So I'm hoping that the information we can provide you guys is going to be beneficial and not just understanding where Marketo is going, but even what the world and the spectrum of marketing is looking like for 2026. So I'll hand it right back over to Lauren to continue.
Thank you so much. So excited to have this crew. I'm Lauren McCormick. So wow, 2012, I guess, is when I started my journey with Marketo. Five-time champ, three-time Revy / Experience Maker Award, a partner and winner with my clients in tandem. It's been a long journey. It's been a cool journey. I've done a lot with the intersection of marketing ops and paid performance media. That's been really fulfilling. I think I was demand gen and rev ops before it was cool. I know Chris and I share that distinction. I think that we like to steal that phrase, I think, and share it proudly. And a fun fact, Chris and I are both alumni of the Kelley School of Business at Indiana University. So super excited to be here. And I would love to just dive in, you guys. If you're amenable to it, I'll stop the screen share. We'll go down just to a Zoom call here. And I would love to just kick around in roundtable fashion. Maybe we can start off with the topic of Adobe and what's going to be interesting and hot when it comes to 2026 in platforms, like what you're looking forward to. I know some of the roadmap we're under NDA around and we can't discuss, but the public parts, I would love to hear your thoughts there. Maybe Chris, you could kick us off with some features and functionality that you're looking forward to enjoying.
No, thank you very much. What I would say, like features and functionality, I think the things that I'm looking forward to, and I think I can mention this because it was mentioned last year at Summit. So a lot of the things that we've heard announced and on the roadmap during Summit are absolutely being worked on. And I know one of the things that I'm really looking forward to is the person journeys feature.
Yeah.
The ability to really kind of workflow out journeys. I'll make a prediction right here that once you adopt person journeys, it's very likely that engagement programs will get sunset in your organization. I see a lot. I see a lot with my clients and past life within the marketing organizations that I've served that have attempted to build very complex like customer journeys within the engagement program module and tend to like it's a wonderful tool, especially for publishing content, but what we're seeing is a lot of marketers are looking at like, okay, what is the specific journey that we want to bring somebody through? And a lot of us, and I'll include myself, have try to kind of fit that into the engagement program module, and it just doesn't work. Person Journeys is going to fix a lot of these things. And I think we're going to be, once it releases, and they've taken their time making sure that this is like absolutely a solid technology. I think they realize that this is one of those technologies that they need to make sure that they get right on day one, that it's not a beta product that they kind of evolve over a couple of iterations. We know it's going to have some issues in V1. I mean, all products do. But I think once it gets released, you're going to be really excited to use this feature. I know I am. So that would be my like what I'm really excited about from Adobe specifically.
That's amazing. I know this is the ever pressing question that we get always as champs. Do we know when the ETA is on that coming? Because I personally am stoked about that too. Have you heard anything?
I have not. And I think even if we
It's
did, we
fair.
probably under NDA and can't say.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. I didn't know if it was coming in the immediate future or just down on the horizon, but we'll keep our eyes peeled. Thank you.
Maybe by the time Summit comes.
Maybe.
Right.
You want to
Hopefully by
Maybe.
the time, yeah, right.
Yeah.
As like a, little gift here. I don't know the dates, but I mean that would be nice, right?
We'll
To
hope. We'll
have
ask
it.
Santa, right?
Yes.
I think that's the way to do
Yes.
it.
They do
Yes.
they do have documentation online though, where they do speak about journeys.
Great.
I'll see if I can find it throughout this call and then share the link, but they do speak
Okay.
about it. So I think to what you're saying, Maria, they may be holding out on Summit to give an official release, but they do speak of it as if it's available at the
Mm,
moment. So
right.
maybe
And they
it's
might
rolling
be
out
trying it
slowly.
out, maybe,
It's
I don't
early
know,
beta,
with
maybe.
certain,
Mm,
like
Yeah.
demos for different accounts, right? But yes, that is exciting. I think, Chris, you hit it right on that, knowing that the possibilities, right? Especially with engagement programs, seeing like when you're building such a complex journey, right? And just trying to put it all together, right? And like usually we create a flow chart, right? And you're able to see, okay, well, but translating that into, your market automation platform like Marketo, and you're like, oh my gosh, how do I get it to translate? And when you make the updates, you have to go to the flow chart. But now you're able to do it within Marketo itself. I think that's one thing that's going to be exciting, right? To be able to see the complexity visually, and then also to mention, because we mentioned in our office hours yesterday, AI, right? The way that they're incorporating AI, especially in journeys, but not just that, in your email templates. I understand that a lot of, to be able to use it, your company has to opt in, right? So if you have not done so, go ahead and reach out to your rep and make sure if you are interested, right? It is a part of it, but I know it's a little trickier with like bigger organizations when it comes to like your legal team approving Gen AI, right? But then there are certain ones that you are allowed to use it. So if you are interested, make sure you reach out. But I am really excited to be able to leverage AI and the way that they're, by them, I mean Adobe, incorporating AI into Marketo and their interactive webinars as well is really exciting to see the functionality. So it's really exciting to be able to see all of those little small features here and there. I know we've been asking for the email designer to be updated right from what we had before. I mean, if you remember back then, Chris, Lauren, I don't know, Karita, if you ever saw the original email editor, right, in Marketo, like, oh my gosh. But the way it's progressed, and I love to see, what we've been asking for finally being, leveraged, and we're being able to use it. And then, all of the updates that we've been asking, like as we've been trying it, right? They've been very open and receptive to making some of those changes if we're seeing like issues, or maybe even like pain points where they can update, right? They're really receptive into accepting those and, making those updates as well. But I'm going to pass it over to Karina. I don't know if there's anything that you're, excited to see as well.
I've just gone ahead and shared the link for you guys to have access to
Amazing.
the journeys for campaign operations. So specifically within Marketo. I think you took a lot of words out of my mouth, Maria, because honestly, I'm looking forward to all of those things. I am a huge, huge, huge advocate of interactive webinars and even the Gen AI features that they have at the moment. And I'm guessing they're going to be rolling it out to some accounts, but I really want to say that this is available at the moment. My thought process though is I really do see a huge influx in terms of how people are leveraging interactive webinars to create that omni-channel strategy. Because I feel like at the moment we're all super comfortable with Zoom, and I'm one of those people, and my organization absolutely loves it. But I do see this whole rise in 2026 when we're talking about dynamic content and just dynamic engagement touch points that we have with our leads or customers, that depending if you're in the B2B space. But because of this rise and a lot of talks about AI and how we can leverage this to make sure that we're targeting the right information or sending the right email at the right time to clients, I think it's taken a gigantic evolution in terms of how we're communicating and optimizing our systems to continuously be dynamic enough to reach people. And I do believe that interactive webinar, though it has right now like a very low adoption rate, I think that's going to take an exponential growth next year for the simple fact that now at this moment, not only can you create like this whole omni-channel strategy with this new Gen AI features where you can actually have the transcript generated and people can click into the most important pieces, but now you have this additional collateral that you can leverage in advertising for on demand or just leverage it for SEO. And it goes right back to the information that was being presented. And then in addition to that, because now we have an aspect that's a bit more dynamic for the experience where you can actually engage with your leads or your clients, prospects, depending on the terminology you use. But now we're at a point where we could hand off more distinctive information, more distinctive content. We could engage. So it's no longer just a business talking to people. Now it's like a two-way conversation between the company, the reps, and the people who are joining, whether it's for thought leadership or a seminar, things like that. So I think this huge influx and demand of being more dynamic and
It's okay.
being able
You
to
can
change
you
on
can
the
talk.
fly. I'm sorry.
I got that. Don't worry. Taken care of.
Okay. So I think just being able to meet people and change content on the fly is going to really put interactive webinars in a much higher pedestal moving forward.
That's awesome. I think it's wild. Yeah, it's like I think all of us, if I remember right, if I remember the crew sitting in the front couple rows in 2024 at Summit, saw the rollout for personalization at scale. And I think we're each speaking to that vision manifesting into reality, which is pretty cool, pretty wild, whether it's journey optimization, or interactive content that makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Or for me, I'm completely into the notion of activation, like CDP activation of first party data to personalize journeys. I think that's it's neat to see all of these things come to fruition. But I think for me, what's wild is I look toward the future, and I want to hear you guys' hot take on this, because I've been sitting with this for a couple months now as I think about the future of interactivity and personalization at scale and individualization really coming to the forefront throughout the buyer's journey and the brand experience. I think about the fact that over the course of the past few years, I've seen some really interesting shifts in internal resourcing and a lot of loss of data knowledge, loss of maybe an intellectual collateral. Like, or I guess if I put it candidly, there's been a lot of freaking layoffs. And I've seen a lot of like business intelligence walk out the door. And I worry that in order for us to get back to a place where we're able to leverage all this tech, all this expensive tech across our tech stack that we've acquired over maybe the years where it was more feast. When it got to be a little more famine, we've cut those teams down so extraordinarily. And I think the thought that, reducing headcount and using AI to augment the team, I feel like that's farther out than people estimate, and that we're in this weird little gap where we want tech to be amazing and to do all this wonderful stuff, but we've made it so our teams are so Spartan that it's going to be a real challenge to get there. And I feel like that's what we're going to see next year, is this appetite that outpaces our resources. And I would love to see if you guys feel the same way. Tell me I'm wrong, I suppose.
I think you're true. And I think we talked a little bit about that yesterday, right, in our office hours, where we need to start thinking of AI as an enhancement, right? Which it is. It enhances, it saves us time, right? But it shouldn't replace an individual, right? It's supposed to make us more productive. And I think Victoria mentioned it, right, where it was if you just start thinking that AI, we can replace, these individuals, right? No, because then you're just going to have a big tech stack, like you're saying, right? You're basically like you laid off people at your team, right? And you slimmed it down. So yes, it's going to improve the time, but you still need those resources. But now it's like, how do you leverage all these tools, right, to be able to enhance their work? Right? Like we were talking about journeys, and we have that data, right, in the system. So now, which is exciting, we're going to be able to leverage, what could take us days, months, weeks, right, to gather that data, study it, and then provide something, right, like recommendations. We can have that now. So it's like a partnership. We save that. Now, what else can we do, right?
Right.
So I think of it more of like an augmentation, like to help us out, right? Versus like, hey, this is going to replace my market automation team. No, it's okay. Now we save time. What else can we do? Because there's
That's right.
always projects that we're like, oh, we'll do it when we have time. We'll push it, until when it's a little slower. When is it slower, right?
Right.
Yeah, so that's my take on it. Chris, Karina, I'd love to hear your perspective on it.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen for some of us that have been around a while, like we've seen this cycle of like, economic, you know, downturn, layoffs, like
That's right.
leadership believes that like, oh, this technology, so the technology du jour is AI, is going to be the panacea. It's going to help solve all of our problems. And there's a lot of fear that technology is going to take everybody's jobs. Like some of us have been around the block a while, have seen this panic cycle.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen though is we know that like ultimately technology is a tool. It's not a panacea. It's not going to solve every problem. And at some point, and usually it's when, the economic factors get better, organizations start investing, and the ones that are more risk tolerant are going to start building up their teams and are going to start to become competitive. And we're going to have these conversations around like what Maria is talking about. How do we augment and make people more effective, which is what this technology is enabling. It's not a replacement, it's an augmentation. And it is going to lead to some of these conversations around digital transformation. Like it's kind of the ongoing discussion. I do believe that we will see another wave of digital transformation projects come about led by AI because we have to deal with the disparate data silos.
That's right.
Um,
That's it. Right.
and I think ultimately also there is a move towards composable architecture because we can't have siloed databases all over the place. And I'm gonna pick on our own tool. Like, Marketo is one of those siloed data platforms, and the world is going to move towards some form of source of truth, whether that is CDP or a data warehouse or some other technology. And we're going to start having conversation because if we don't address the source of truth problem, then we're going to continue to see AI become ineffective and like our leadership is going to start questioning investments in AI, which
Spot on,
to
dude.
some degree they probably should.
Spot on. I was just saying yesterday in the Champ office hours that Maria was referencing, AI is spotlighting problems that we need to solve at the human level before we can automate and
Mhm.
perform at scale. And, you know, as wonderful a tech as it is, it's not going to be the magic bullet that solves the problems we've been trying to avoid. And you're right about that, say, the siloed data. I know we only have a few minutes left. Karina, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic. If anybody has any questions for us in the audience, feel free to drop them in the chat. But yeah, Karina, what's your take on the state of the state?
So I do love AI, and I feel like we're ramping up to and using it. But my thought is, I share the same sentiments, and I don't think that AI is going to be ramped up by a lot of people quickly. But what I do think, going back to that whole human experience and that human touch, but the necessity for automation at a much larger scale that can also function as a team member, I do believe that there are going to be more adoption of how to leverage AI. Because I feel like right now, the ideas of how to use AI and the rhetoric in the past was that AI would replace someone, or that AI can, you know, you no longer need that graphic designer because you can generate an image within seconds or on the fly. But now we're starting to really understand you still need that human in the loop experience, whether it's from a management perspective of treating that AI as a team member, or from the perspective of really setting AI to do these tedious tasks. And I think there's been just a lot of lack in, I think, the community overall, the marketing community, not just MarkOps, in terms of how you can leverage technology, AI, and what tools can you have it enabled so that way it can do certain things for you. And I think now we're starting to get an understanding of not having to take gigantic steps in implementing AI, but perhaps doing those tiny minor things, whether it's cleaning up data for us, cleaning up an Excel sheet before we import it into Marketo or other of our systems, or literally just leveraging it to give us more insight or signals in terms of how people are navigating within our website. I think it's these tiny little steps that are really going to get us to a place where people would start to implement and understand the benefits of AI, and then organizations are also going to take that step back and not look at it from a perspective of $100,000 plus investment, but look at it as like, what problem is it solving? And then from an operational standpoint, I think we're now being put into a position where I've heard so often, and you mentioned this, Lauren, like having that seat at the revenue table. I think this whole movement of AI is definitely getting us to that place, because now we're going to have to effectively build cases for leveraging AI, then and come up with not just why to use it, but what is it solving? Is it cleaning up data where we can sync leads into our CRM, and all of a sudden our lead to cash is a bit much faster? Or is it really just taking away like this bandwidth from a team member that spends 6 hours a day doing something so tedious, and we can implement a scraping solution, for example, where AI can come in and then, you know, release that human capital bandwidth, so that way that team member can focus on something more higher, more strategic, or more advanced. Those are my takes in terms of where I see it moving.
You guys are brilliant. I love hearing your thoughts, and I'm so grateful for your time today. Thank you for joining us. I wish we had more time. This was a quick one, but I appreciate you so much. Maria, Chris, Karina, thank you so much for being here. Everyone that joined, thank you for spending time with us today. Feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn or wherever you'd like to continue the chat, and we'll see you again soon. Happy holidays, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Take care.
Bye.